Now to Venezuela, where the government says it's dealing with an attempted coup by a group of soldiers. The opposition leader, Juan Guaido, has appeared in a video surrounded by soldiers at an airbase said to be in the capital, Caracas. Another opposition figure, Leopoldo Lopez, he's been freed from house arrest. He says it was the military that freed him. Now, Guaido is saying this is the final phase of a plan to oust President Nicolas Maduro. Live now to our correspondent on the line, Teresa Bo. She's in neighbouring Argentina. Teresa, what are you managing to pick up about what's going on in Caracas right now?
Well, it's been a very, very agitated morning in Venezuela. What we know is that very early in the morning, almost at dawn, a group of armed forces, of members of the armed forces, Bolivarian National Guard that are against the government, freed opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez, and then they headed towards a very large military base that's in the center of Caracas. It's called La Carlota. And from there, we've seen Leopoldo Lopez and Juan Guaido calling on to the military, to relatives of the military, to the people of Venezuela to take to the streets. They said that this is the first stage, the last stage of what they called Operation Freedom, in order to get President Nicolas Maduro out of office. It's very, very difficult to know exactly what's happening in Venezuela. We know that the government is saying that there is an attempted coup against the administration and that they're trying to defeat it, and that it's being carried out by a very small group of members of the military. It's not clear yet how big this actual coup is and how many people are with Guaido right now. We've known that in the past, the opposition, for example, has tried to enlarge, in a way, an ongoing situation in Venezuela. And at the same time, the Venezuelan government has repeatedly said that they've been trying to deter coup against them, that the United States is against this type of situations in Venezuela, among other things.
Teresa, let me just tell you what we're seeing, because we're looking at a live shot, a live picture coming from, I think, an airfield in Caracas. It seems as though there's tear gas being used. There are a number of people with flags. We've seen Leopoldo Lopez himself. We've seen Juan Guaido as well. Leopoldo Lopez has been embraced by several people, and there are soldiers. Now, it's really difficult to say how many are involved, but it doesn't look to be a huge number of people. But there is tear gas, and as I say, there are these two prominent opposition leaders. The Minister of Defence, just looking at the latest lines, Teresa, the Minister of Defence has said that they are managing a small coup of officers who are affiliated with the opposition. So a small coup is what the government is saying, Teresa.
Yes, most definitely, and that is what they will likely say in an event such as this one. It's very, very difficult to know exactly how much support that opposition leader Juan Guaido has at this point. We've known that in the past month, since this whole situation began in Venezuela, several people have tried to rise up a bit against the government of Nicolas Maduro. Many have been detained, some have died, many have left the country, going to Brazil and to Venezuela. Let's not forget that until now, what we know is that the armed forces, the leadership of the armed forces, has remained loyal to Nicolas Maduro, especially because of the role that they play in the administration. I mean, they're in charge not only of the Ministry of Defense, but they're in charge of the Ministry of Economy, of Interior. They're members of the military who are also governors in several states of Venezuela. So there's a very, very close relationship between the government of Nicolas Maduro. They repeatedly call it, and this is a thing that Hugo Chavez, former President Hugo Chavez, used to say, it's a civilian-military alliance. And that's why it's very difficult and at the same time very important to know how big the situation ongoing right now in La Carlota, that's the airfield in Caracas, is, and how many people are actually supporting Juan Guaido. And that's something that we're going to probably find out in the next few hours.
Teresa, thank you for that. Teresa Bo, our correspondent, reporting live from neighbouring Argentina. Now we can speak to Dimitris Pantoulas, who's a political analyst. He specialises on Venezuela, and he's there in the capital, Caracas. Thank you for talking to us. What do you know about the current situation in the Venezuelan capital?
Good morning. It is still very early in the morning. I just wake up hearing people close to my house shouting freedom and let's go all on the streets. And from what we have seen through the social media, mostly because the television doesn't broadcast anything related, it is something like an uprising of some militaries together with Juan Guaido and Leopoldo Lopez here in the eastern part of Caracas, in one military base, which is it is a place in the eastern of Caracas, mainly opposition. And
Right.
also we know that the government has just called saying that people should go to Miraflores Palace to defend President Maduro.
Right.
This is the latest.
How significant is it then, because we're looking at pictures of Leopoldo Lopez, how significant is it that he's been freed from house arrest, he claims, by the military?
It is absolutely significant. Leopoldo Lopez is a very important figure inside the opposition. He is the mentor of Guaido, and the fact that the military and the security forces, let's say, left him free to go to Carlota to support Guaido in this attempt to bring down Nicolas Maduro, I think it is very significant, and I think it is and the next chapter in this stand made that we had in the last months in Venezuela.
Now, our correspondent was just on the line, she's covered Venezuela extensively, and she's talking about there being a civilian-military alliance. The leadership of the military have stuck solidly, haven't they, with the government of Nicolas Maduro. Who do you imagine these soldiers who are apparently working with Guaido and Lopez, who do you imagine them to be, or what rank do you imagine them to be?
Rumors saying that there are a few generals and many soldiers lower ranks. But this is rumors. It happened like 1 hour ago. The rumor says that there are few generals and most of a lower rank civil soldiers. But we don't know yet. The government, obviously, and the defense minister said that they will not. They are not traitors, and they will support and they will back Nicolas Maduro. But the number two of the government, Diosdado Cabello, he called the civilians to go to the palace to defend him.
OK, I'm asking you to speculate a little bit here, but how do you see the next couple of hours going? You've got what clearly is a disruption of some significance, given the fact that Leopoldo Lopez has been released from house arrest by members of the military, it would appear. There is tear gas being used against what clearly appear to be some soldiers who are going against orders. So how might this develop?
I think the crucial will be if people that support Guaido and Leopoldo Lopez will go on the streets, and this mass will become bigger and bigger, so they will put so much pressure to the government and to the other militaries to defect and support Guaido and Leopoldo Lopez. If that doesn't happen, I think this uprising will fail.
All right, Dimitris Pantoulas, thank you very much indeed for talking to us live from Caracas as we look at those pictures, those live pictures of, this is in Caracas, there is tear gas being used. We've seen both opposition leaders of Leopoldo Lopez, who claims to have been freed from house arrest by members of the military. Plus, we've seen Juan Guaido there. Our analyst, Dimitris Pantoulas, has just suggested that the next couple of hours will be pretty crucial in terms of working out how many people might come out onto the streets to either join with what appears to be a small, rather contained uprising, or whether they will follow the president's call, heed the president's call, and assemble at Miraflores Palace in support of the Bolivarian revolution. That's the situation right now in Caracas in Venezuela.